Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Brian Kilmeade, Donna Brazil, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five.
Why?
This is a Fox News alert. Breaking news rocking Washington, D.C. as two key senators will vote yes to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia announcing their decisions just moments ago. Here's a little portion of Senator Collins' speech on the Senate floor.
Oh, really?
I do not believe that these charges can fairly prevent Judge Kavanaugh from serving on the court. To that leaker, who I hope is listening now, let me say that what you did was unconscionable, so that public confidence in our judiciary and our highest court is restored. Mr. President, I will vote to confirm Judge Kavanaugh.
The final vote is now expected tomorrow in what could be Mitch McConnell's biggest win of his career. The White House responding to the news with this tweet from Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Thank you, Senator Collins, for standing by your convictions and doing the right thing to confirm Judge Kavanaugh. I think all of us watched Susan Collins' speech. It was a big lead up to quite a stem winder, I think they used to call him, a big stem winder. Greg, it was an important speech, and I wondered what you thought of it.
Well, okay, so she started talking, and I started yawning, and I realized that I am missing something really huge because I'm not trained to hear it. We've spent so much time with short, loud, almost Trumpian speeches all the time. This might have been the most important speech I've heard in years because she wasn't just defending Kavanaugh. She was defending our system. She was trying to preserve an institution. And she was like, you know, when you watch shows and they say, like, you know, previously on Dallas, she was like previously in the government. She went from the beginning to the present time. It took us through every bit of the resistance, every bit of his legal background, all of the allegations. She was a hammer of reason going through all of this stuff. And she brought us from the start to the finish, providing cover for everybody else. And again, she spoke not for Kavanaugh. She was speaking for us. And so I go to Twitter, right, because I see the other media who are like me, making jokes about her, like making, and their male reporters mocking her, and because she's like slow or she's boring, and it's
methodical.
Like, yeah, they made the same mistake I did, but they're even dumber than me for doing that. And I mean, they're making fun of a woman, an incredibly brave woman. What she did was brave. She's going to be harassed for the rest of her life.
She decided to do it on the merits, right? So she's like, this wasn't a partisan decision for her, Jesse, but one on the merits.
And it shouldn't have been this close. If you look at this, the media has been really complicit in spreading this disinformation campaign here. When you look at that letter that came out from Ford's boyfriend that raised all kinds of credibility issues for her, the media ignored that. The letter from the ex-boyfriend of Julie Swetnick, the Avenatti client, raised all sorts of questions about her credibility, her participating in some very unsavory things. I can't even say it on television. Her history of frivolous lawsuits and restraining orders. And then they buried the Mitchell report that had riddled with great information from an experienced prosecutor. The media buried that. And the media never talked about all the witnesses alleged that couldn't corroborate the story from Ford. And there was an interesting polling question, and I think right now it was under 50% public support for the Kavanaugh confirmation. But when the respondent is asked, well, if you were told that all of the alleged witnesses couldn't corroborate Ford, it skyrockets to over 60%. And then still things are leaking out of the story. This friend of Ford allegedly trying to persuade or tamper with some of the witnesses' sworn statements, saying them to change their story. This woman's a former FBI agent. The woman allegedly was coached by Ford on how to take a polygraph test. This woman's being represented by a lawyer who left the Justice Department in a huff over Trump's election, who oversaw the Hillary Clinton probe. Very sketchy stuff going on, and Grassley's now alluding to even more coordination between Ford and Ford's team and Dianne Feinstein and things like that. And Susan Collins mentioned these things in her floor speech today. She says these antics by Feinstein didn't help. The Avenatti accusation definitely didn't help. And everything that these people do in the hallways isn't helping. And you got to look back at this thing after 2 weeks and say, the Democrats really overplayed their hand here.
Did you think, Donna, given all of your experience, that
I can't believe I sat here and listened to all of that without erupting in some form of rage.
Well, you're going to get a chance. You're going to get a chance.
Or began to show my explosive passion. But then again, I'm not Judge Kavanaugh. I don't get a chance to cry and make it all up.
Should only women cry? Should only women cry? That's very sexist to make fun of a man for crying.
First of all, I've never made fun of anybody crying. And by the way, I've seen a lot of men cry in my life, and most of the time they've cried.
I did that once after one show. Okay, one show. You were really tough.
You know, if I had tissue, I'd give it to you now because I can sing right now. You would cry.
Donna, I do wonder, up until Susan Collins gave her speech, did you think there was a chance that the Republicans might not be able to get this confirmation done?
You know, first of all, when it comes to Senate nominations for judicial positions, the Republicans have only one speed, and that is go ahead and get it done. We saw with Merrick Garland, waiting 10 months. He didn't get a hearing. It didn't happen. We saw with Justice Gorsuch, he got a hearing, they got it done, and 3 Democrats walked across the aisle to support him. So, look, I am not going to sit here and belittle the women who have come forward. I'm not going to try to bring back old conversations about their past because they're not applying for a job, a lifetime position on the Supreme Court. Judge Kavanaugh should have expected that his life story, his life history would come up. We expect that when you run a candidate for president. We expect that. Sorry, I touch you. I'm not trying to do anything.
No, I like being touched. I'm from an Italian family. We're always touching each other.
I'm part Irish.
But no one expects to be
accused of gang rape.
Like falsely accused or of something leading up to the hearing. Like he knew that his background would be there, but you can't anticipate that you'll be falsely accused.
You cannot, but you can anticipate that your past, your entire past, not just your recent past, will come up in the matter of not just hearings, but a matter of investigation. That being said, this vote will likely happen within the next 22 hours. It appears that they have the votes. We don't know. I suggest people who are still upset, people who still want to weigh in, call United States Senators 202-224-3121 because it's not over. The ABA is now looking into Judge Kavanaugh's appearance list.
Right. But they're not going to look into Avenatti.
I would say this.
Avenatti is compare the two.
But he's not applying for a lifetime position.
But I mean, should he be actually practicing law, Avenatti?
We're not really
after what he did.
We know that he's got a great tanning deal because he's constantly tanned. But we know Avenatti.
But look who's talking, baby. You look good. You got your tan.
Thank you very much. I have makeup. Thank you. And I am getting back to being half Italian. That's a gift. Now, a couple of things. The most powerful senator, I think, from here on in is Senator Joe Manchin. I mean, he's already shown he's not just somebody who says I'm pro-gun and I'm anti-Obamacare. This is for one of the first times he's had a major impactful vote as a so-called moderate Democrat. And now he is wooable, and you can't get mad at him.
Wooable.
Yeah.
I love that
word. So who is wooing him?
So put it this way. It is such a narrow margin. It's such a narrow margin on everything that if he's a Democrat, they will actually go across the aisle and vote on something consequential. You can't be mad at him if you're a Democrat. But I would say this, if I can, Dana, just about this whole thing.
I just want to mention, we just have a chance to talk about Joe Manchin in just a moment, so hold that thought. We're going to get to John Roberts. He's got some breaking news about him, but go ahead and finish.
I would just like to say this. That was one of the most comprehensive but necessary speeches that I can remember in quite some time. There were no enemies. There were no bad guys. The only bad guys was the leaker we don't know. Feinstein, I know you would never do that. Ford, I know you were really hurt. Kavanaugh, you got a great record, and I know that wasn't you. So she went out of her way not to create any enemies. She's trying to do something, and idealistically think it's possible. Yeah. She's trying to restart. She's trying to start fresh. And let's say the next thing is opioids. We make a big deal of it, you just passed. Stuff that we can do together, because I think we're staring at the cliff and nobody wants to jump, not Republicans or Democrats. So I think the next time you have me back here, it will probably be 2021. We'll have a situation where people are making deals again.
You won't be back.
We'll see. Speaking of Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, our own John Roberts is at the White House, and I think you have some, little color, a little tidbit about what might have happened today.
I do. First of all, to Brian's point, I think you could probably lay a pretty safe bet that President Trump, who's been campaigning heavily in West Virginia, may not make any more campaign appearances there between now and the 6th of November. We'll see, though. But clearly, Joe Manchin was a big part of this. And I am told, let's put it this way. I talked to White House officials after the cloture vote, and I said, do you think you can hang on to Manchin? And they said, yeah, we're pretty sure we can hang on to Manchin. The reason for that optimism was that this morning, Senator Joe Manchin called the White House and said that he was going to be a yes on the confirmation for Brett Kavanaugh. So that's why people around here were pretty happy today, thinking that this was going to go through. The one wild card, though, remained Maine Senator Susan Collins. She did not call the White House this morning to say that she would be a yes. White House officials told me they assumed if she was going to be a no, that she would have called to inform them of that, but they learned of her decision in real time, just like the rest of us. They were hanging on every word she said, and we were here too. The way she laid out the judicial case for Judge Kavanaugh then seemed to pivot back a little bit on the allegations against him, but then pivoted back to the positive again. And when she did that, we pretty much knew that she was going to be a yes on Kavanaugh. So at the moment, with Senator Daines out of Montana for his daughter's wedding, you've got a 50-49 margin. If for some reason something were to happen, he could always come back, and I think it's a safe bet to say as well, the vice president will probably be around town just in case.
Don't go anywhere. Jesse, did you have a quick question?
No, I had a comment.
Is it a funny one?
No.
It better be.
No, I was only saying if I were Joe Manchin, I would have held out for more. And here's why. You remember Obamacare? Remember how they got that through? The Louisiana Purchase, the Cornhusker kickback. I mean, what did he get? I mean, I'm just saying, Obama got that through with a lot of bribes and lies, and this got through, I guess, maybe lunch, maybe a promise not to campaign in Wheeling, West Virginia anymore. I'm just saying, the way the Senate works, he could have gotten more.
I think that he did actually demand a piece of wedding cake from Senator Daines when he comes back from Montana. But, you know, and this is not to say that anything like this would happen, but you'll remember that 2 years ago, Governor Jim Justice, who is a lifelong Democrat, switched his affiliation to the Republican Party. There have been a lot of people who have been tweeting me today saying they wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Manchin run as a Republican in 2024, yeah.
It's a good thing we have Donna Brazile here because she knows that Senate calendar. Thank you very much, John Roberts. I did want to ask you something, Donna. MoveOn.org and Priorities USA, two big Democratic-leaning super PACs, have announced today they're pulling funding from Joe Manchin, who might not need it anymore in West Virginia anyway, but also pulling it from Phil Bredesen in Tennessee, who's in a tight race against Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee. I mean, isn't that sort of like shooting yourself in the foot?
Well, look, I don't know how much money they had committed to those candidates, but I can tell you Phil Bredesen is somebody who still has a shot at winning the United States Senate race. So I would advise them to continue to support him.
All right, Greg, what about tone here in terms of like Senator Collins?
I heard Trump actually said, thanks, Joe, and he said, don't mention it. What do you go ahead?
No, it's not Dana.
So I tried to find a joke that would make a 4-year-old laugh, and I think I even failed. Here's the thing that drives me nuts is that to Jesse's point about witness tampering, the media, it's another blackout. That's a big piece of this.
You brought it up yesterday.
Yeah, they're more obsessed. Yeah, they're more obsessed with ice cubes. They were chasing melting ice and not this. And I don't understand how they can let this go. I'm interested in Grassley's letter demanding the correspondence between Feinstein and I guess Katz, who seems to be everywhere at once. And to your point about the Bar Association, I find it weird how everybody is really silent now about Avenatti. And I'm beginning to think that even the Democrats are realizing that he plays a great role in destroying the Democratic Party, because if he had never entered the picture, you'd have just had Ford. You'd have just had one person and not this kind of crazy gang rape story.
New Yorker.
Yeah, and I think he's a Republican plant, Avenatti.
Well, put it this way.
he got Cavanetti in with that false
Greg,
claim.
I think you're 100% right. In fact, when that story first broke, the story was Democrats were saying, "What is he doing?
Yeah.
Where does
Guys,
this come from?"
This is not over. Don't spike the football in the goalpost right now. Whatever that old saying is, this is not over.
I didn't even know that one. It's end zone.
It's moving the goalpost and spiking the football.
I'll figure
not
out
spiking the
You guys
punch.
can spike
figure
the
it out by
goalposts.
about
summer
spiking
when
the punch
Saints
didn't happen?
win.
What does this mean overall, though, for the midterms? People on the Democratic side, on the Republican side, they were motivated when it looked like he wasn't going to get through. Are they still going to be motivated if he does, in fact, get through?
Yeah, right. Like, Donna, are losers more motivated because they're angry?
32 days from now, first of all, there are many states voting. I was counting today, nine states. Early voting has already started. Next week, it'll be another 7 states. So people are already voting, turning in their ballots, going to the polls early, or getting absentee. This will have an impact on the midterm. I think you will find people galvanized both on the left and the right who will go to the polls. Perhaps they don't vote in midterm elections and will decide that this was the issue that galvanized them to go out and vote.
I was going to play a little sound, but
Sure. No, go ahead.
Okay. So Chuck Schumer this morning, if you could pull up that call for, talking about the Kavanaugh hearings compared to the Clarence Thomas hearings. If we have that, could we play it?
The dam broke under the weight of credible allegations that Judge Kavanaugh committed a sexual assault in high school. In 2018, the Republican majority conducted a hearing that made the Anita Hill hearings in 1991 look fair by comparison.
What do you think of that, Jesse?
Well, listen, it's a huge difference in that story. Everybody knows the difference is there. But bottom line, Chuck lost and Mitch McConnell won. And it was a very huge victory for Mitch McConnell, just as big as it was for Grassley, just as big as it was for Donald Trump. Think about what happened here. You have a window, 2-year window, where you have the White House, you have the Senate, and then you have the House. And the amount of stuff that this Congress and this president got done in this very small window, historic opportunity, was enormous. If you think about 2 Supreme Court judges, the victories on trade, on ISIS, on North Korea, on tax cuts, on pipelines, on repealing the Obamacare mandate.
New NAFTA.
It's just an amazing sweep of the agenda for the conservative cause. And I think people respect the fact that this president did not back down, that Mitch McConnell did not back down. A lot of Republicans would have gotten a little squishy in this situation in the face of this hysterical Democratic and media onslaught when you're wavering on the women vote as it is, and they hung tough and they base it on facts, and I believe they're going to be rewarded for that in the midterms.
Senator Lindsey Graham says nothing has brought the Republican Party together like this has, and he hasn't seen it. And he's not somebody just to be a partisan, maybe like a Senator Inhofe, you know where they're coming from. You never know exactly where Senator Lindsey Graham's coming from. For example, he's upset at the president for being nice to the North Korean leader at the same time he's fighting for the president's candidate while golfing with him on the weekends. That's why I think he's so valuable now overall. A couple of things happened. In the beginning, it's the Me Too movement. It's Harvey Weinstein. You don't want to be the wrong side of that, and you shouldn't be. Sexual assault, serious. We understand where we should be. But they've changed. It changed to, wait a second, did he do it? And this is back in high school. And what do you remember? And what happens? And all of a sudden, the people that said women should get their rights and should be heard have sons, brothers, husbands, and wonder, what if they, who are female, what if women also find themselves, have a male counterpart who find themselves in trouble? Shouldn't we broaden this out a little bit? And the third thing was, and this is my unofficial poll, is a lot of people, according to the people I have met and polled, drank in high school and college, especially when the age was 18. So this one from
Did they throw ice?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Then went from, wait a second, sexual assault, dead serious, to, wait, I had a few beers in high school, and there were a few times when I had too many in college. And wait a second, then it got to be juvenile, and then people saying, wait, so now you can't have a beer in high school and college. If you have somebody in that hallway that didn't like you, they become a star now.
You know, it doesn't matter what age the sexual abuse or sexual assault occurred. It doesn't matter if you're 5 years old.
It matters if it occurred.
It matters, but it matters that people are able to describe their trauma and speak their truth. 1 year ago.
You can treat it seriously. You can treat it seriously.
Treat it seriously.
But you also should treat the accusation seriously if you're accused.
It ruins lives.
Sexual assault, yes, it ruins lives, and not just in terms of public reputation, but it ruins lives in terms of people's ability to live their life and live their truth. So look, sexual assault and sexual harassment, they are both crimes. And they were not recognized as crimes until 4 or 5 decades ago. I wrote this
Sexual
down.
assault?
Sexual assault
Was not a crime 5 decades ago?
Sexual harassment. The guidelines.
Yeah, okay, separate them, okay.
The guidelines. There's two different, as you know. Okay.
Also,
one year ago, after the Me Too movement came about, 9 members of Congress have had to resign or decline to run for re-election because of allegations of sexual assault or sexual abuse. Then there's been 2 White House aides who have had to step down or left as a result of spousal abuse. And 3 congressional candidates have lost this session. So I just want to say, for the record, this is serious. We can't make light of it, and we should allow people to come
But I don't think anyone's making light of it. If I could just finish, since you were building on my point, is that of those people, they did it. So they should resign. They should get out.
See,
Brett Kavanaugh says he wasn't there. I never met her. And I think that side had to be listened to.
Can I actually say something? Because no one is treating this lightly. What you're doing, you're implicitly generalizing behavior to an entire group. You went through a series of specific examples, and you're generalizing to somebody who is, as far as we know, innocent. Just because someone else did something doesn't mean this person did it. That is actually, that's called prejudice. When you generalize behavior to people so that you take away the rights of the individual, that's actually prejudice. That's why this midterm is so important, because we need to teach the Democratic Party a lesson that they will never forget, that you don't F with our system, you don't F with our due process, and you don't lynch somebody based on some scurrilous accusations.
Justice has no partisan ring. When Anita
Not in the last 3 weeks.
Anita Hill,
come on.
Really? When Anita Hill had to be heard, it was 6 Democratic women who marched on Democratic senators. It was not about partisanship. It is about justice and allowing a woman to be heard. If you want to make this a partisan battle,
no, I'm talking about an individual. I'm not generalizing. I'm talking about an individual.
And wasn't she
Kavanaugh?
Well, and also
stick to what's happening now.
Because a Republican president wanted to see a fair investigation. That was George Herbert Walker Bush. And a Democratic chair said, investigate these claims, these allegations. That is the point I'm making. I'm not generalizing. Someone who has known discrimination, experienced discrimination, do not like discrimination or any form of bigotry.
Neither do I.
Never. Ever.
Dianne Feinstein could have had a fair investigation if she had taken care of this when she could have in August.
What you're seeing, though, I have to. This is not about
Dr. Ford, which is also
no, and that's why you do an FBI background check, because the FBI respects confidentiality.
This is not about a political divide.
And was the FBI hands tied in this investigation?
They talked to 11 alleged witnesses, and no one said anything different than what they swore already.
How do we know? We haven't seen
you don't believe the FBI? How dare you question the FBI?
I'm saying
it's an institution.
No Democrat walked out and said it wasn't corroborated.
I am saying, no, some Democrats walked out and said we haven't seen the whole story. I am saying that we should, as Americans, as taxpayers, we pay their salary. We should see the report. That's all I'm saying.
And if you start going down the road of seeing all FBI investigations in terms, you want to talk about a privacy issue.
Well, they can redact.
I want to see your FBI investigation. I want to see yours.
More on the breaking developments on Brett Kavanaugh's
I'm sure the Russians
We've got a lot more to talk about when the 5 returns.
Look at us! Look at us! Look at us! Look at us! Look at us!
Emotions are running high on Capitol Hill as protesters swarm Senator Joe Manchin after the Democrat announced he will vote yes for Brett Kavanaugh. The ambushing of lawmakers has been going on for days. Senator Orrin Hatch, another example.
Don't you wave your hand at me. I wave my hand at you.
When you grow up, I'll be glad.
When I grow up, we grow up. You and I grow up. How dare you talk to women that way? How dare you that first? How dare you?
Oh, I can't even hear. All right. Personally,
that's the sound of democracy. You got to admit that it's the sound of democracy.
Sound of a mob.
I don't know.
That's the sound of democracy.
Here's what I think, and this you can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. Wouldn't their energy be better spent on voter mobilization, on turning people out, on getting people to the polls instead of just screaming at senators?
Well, you can do 2 things at one time. They're doing both. This is a people's filibuster. I haven't been there.
A people's filibuster.
Yeah, it's a people's filibuster. They are out there commanding the stage. They are speaking truth to power.
Okay. I don't know about truth, but they're definitely powerfully loud.
Is this an organic movement by people who are motivated to change America?
Well, this was asked by a protester by someone over at another network, and we have some sound. Let's listen.
Are you a paid professional? I work for a community organization. I work for a network of community organizations. Center for Popular Democracy that has received funding from liberal billionaire George Soros. Records show, they mention you, Ana Maria Archila, who confronted Flake as the group's co-executive director. Perhaps that is where the president is trying to draw this link? If the president wants to know whether I work for a social justice organization, the answer is yes. And I've worked for a social justice organization since I was 23.
All right, so perhaps not every person flooding the Capitol is a paid protester, but some high-profile ones are.
And it is, but it is pretty true, Donna, that for the most part, when people are, the Democrats and Republicans are upset, but it seems like the Democrats have cornered the market on rudeness and anger.
Ooh, where have you been?
I don't remember the last time. I don't remember the last time Chuck Schumer was cornered by a group of angry Republicans.
I mean, come on. I lived through not just the Obama years. Dana, I lived through the Bush years. I've lived through the Clinton years. I've lived. So polite. No, what I'm saying, Dana, the anti-war protesters during that period, and the Clinton years. I mean, 20 years ago, I remember that too. Maybe I'm showing my age. I hope not. Gray still owe me something out of that cup. But let me just say this. This is democracy. This is people who are turning their rage, their anger, their passion.
Does decorum matter?
But I hope that in 32 days, they need, yes, civility matters.
But here's the audience, though, Greg. Let me ask Greg a question, though, for one thing. So there's two audiences here. There's the senators who are getting attacked and getting people in their face. And then there's people on television that are watching it. How do you think that plays?
Can I throw to some piece of tape?
Sure.
This is my favorite part.
This has never been done before.
This is my favorite part of the protest. Can we roll this?
On cloture. In 30 minutes. Meet me to the left.
Meet me to the left.
If you would like to go to an office.
If you would like to go to an office.
To spend time. With your senator.
Summoned to vote.
And summoned to vote.
Let's go watch the vote.
Let's go watch the vote.
In offices that you wish to communicate with.
In offices that you wish to communicate with.
I am going to go to Heidi Heitkamp's office.
I'm going to go to Heidi Heitkamp's office.
Why? She's on our side.
All right. Okay. That is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But you have to understand, it's also kind of chilling. It's chilling to me to see a mob in action. That to me is not democracy. That's robotics.
Yeah.
And so what I see is I don't see a political divide. I don't see right versus left. What I see is a fear of the general population in facing a small mob of intimidating activists who seek to subvert our institutions. People don't want to get involved, don't want to be yelled at. So when they see a group coming after them, they freak out. That's what they're counting on. This is an intimidating machine. It's a small group. And so then you see the media coverage of this. I love the media coverage. You got to hear it. They go, "Oh, let's look at these activists, young, old men, women." No, they're not. They're the same type of people. They're elitist, overeducated, overcaffeinated, white majority leftists who only think one thought, and that is to destroy the system.
They are organizers, and that's how you organize people.
By repeating that is racist.
From the heart. It comes from the heart.
I'm sorry, but that is called civic education.
That's called the zombie apocalypse.
That is called civic education. Look, every time I've coordinated a town hall meeting in my life, including for a Republican, Newt Gingrich.
When did this start?
After
this robotic thing. When did that start?
Well, this has been part of organizing for the history. When you inform people, you go here to do this, you go there to do this.
But why do they have to repeat it like robots?
Dana, let me ask you a question.
So do you giving people instructions?
Flake was one guy. So Flake got confronted by the woman who we just saw in the elevator, and a lot of people on the left believe that was very productive. I believe that was a one-off. I believe that was a one-off, and I don't think if you do that to any other Republican senator, they're going to flip at all.
However, as mad as some Republicans were at Flake last Friday, this Friday you could argue that what Flake did by insisting on an supplemental FBI investigation actually led to the moment that Susan Collins and Manchin and Flake could say yes.
It gave them cover.
So, hindsight is 50-50.
It was a respectful thing to do in the
Actually,
right thing
2020,
to
but
do.
it's a funny
Senator
thing.
Flynn, what a way to go out. All right, listen, we got to run. The media's latest attack on Brett Kavanaugh. More attacks next.
No, my friend said that.
And dug his tongue to his bottom lip as he was deposed in an embattled bid to save his Supreme Court nomination. If he would get to don his black robe, he'd do it weepily. So he seemingly weaponized crying, the way a little boy does when he's in trouble. So because he cried, Greg, he's less of a man.
Well, you know,
and he's being mocked.
We were told that it's sexist to say boys don't cry. Because it implies that only women cry, and that's an example of misogyny. So while you're knocking a dude, which is misandry, you're actually being misogynist by saying that, hey, if it was a girl, it'd be okay. I'd love to see how that writer would handle the public shaming and humiliation before millions or before his family. How that writer would be able to endure that. Everybody gets a pass. It doesn't how you handle it. You get a pass because most people don't go through that kind of hell. And by the way, also
10 days his life fell.
His emotions were due, in fact, not about the Ford accusation, but what was happening afterwards, what was raining down on him with the gang rape stuff and watching this happen before his eyes and his family's eyes. He had every right to be emotional. In fact, if I don't know how he didn't get up from that table and punch a few people.
Right, he was very angry.
Well, that would have got him in a lot of trouble. Look,
yes, I know.
When Edmund
That's why I'm not on the court.
You should not don the black robe.
I have one at home, though.
Oh, don't start.
It's a shorty.
Okay. Edmund Muskie, when he cried in 1972, I mean, people said it would set men back. When Pat Schroeder cried...
Well, he lost his candidacy.
That's right. When Pat Schroeder cried, when she decided that she wasn't going to continue to pursue it, they said, don't cry because girls should not cry in public because it shows you're weak. Look, Reagan cried whenever he saw the American flag, and people thought that was a sense of strength. George Herbert Walker.
Well, 41 and 43 are big criers.
Wait, how about Boehner? Remember that? Oh, you're getting to him? Okay, I'm sorry.
So, look, I don't think crying for women or men should be seen as any sign of some kind of instability, but we've treated women differently when it comes to the range of emotions that we're able to use in public. I raised my voice today because you raised your voice. And I said, oh, hell, I can raise my voice.
Right.
Don't worry, I won't sound like Aretha after dark.
Right.
But the truth is that when the justice, he did appear, he was very indignant, he was very angry. But now I think what people are questioning was his temperament. You know, is this the Judge Kavanaugh that we might see on the court?
But that's why the temperament's one thing, but they were talking about crying. Dana,
he's a human being.
Dana, like there was a time, and they say in this article that Ernest Hemingway, John Wayne, John Ford, they were tough men. They would never cry. It shows how America's changed, and we're not ready to see a man cry.
How did that turn out for Hemingway in the long run, right?
Well,
but part of the whole thing about telling men that it's okay to cry was that so that you wouldn't get yourself into a terrible situation later on in life with depression and all the rest, and the repressed anger. And that's pretty rich for the New Yorker to write this piece.
And can women become
angry? And also
angry?
the reason, remember back to his testimony, when his voice broke and when he started to cry, it was when he said, because of all of this, I may never be able to teach again. I may never be able to coach again. They were taking away from him, based on a false accusation, all the things that he cared about in his life. And he has 2 daughters, he's a son, he's a husband. And I also will say this, when he's on the court, I think everyone should be rest assured that he will have a very soft spot for people who come to the court who say they were falsely accused.
And you probably thought that before anyway, because you know him. Jesse, they go on to this article to talk about how you cry makes a difference. They thought that Boehner cried in a sweet way, and that he seemed to cry in an awkward way. Does it matter how you cry?
It does. I think Boehner cried in a humiliating way, so the Democrats thought that was funny because they mocked him for it. These were real tears. These were not crocodile tears. Anybody that watched that testimony knows that that was real and raw emotion. And the Democrats don't like the fact that he cried because that emotion propelled him through that testimony and really rallied some wavering senators to his side because they saw a man who was indignant about being accused of something he swore he didn't do. Also, let's bring up another guy. You brought up a lot of people, great Muskie reference, by the way. How about Crying Chuck? Does the Democrats of the New Yorker write anything about Crying Chuck? Hillary Clinton cried, remember, in 2008 in New Hampshire, and then she ended up winning that primary because of those tears.
But the word is that President Trump does not like when a man cries and wasn't pleased with the crying.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
President Trump likes to make others cry.
Dr. Christine Ford
He said it was compelling, but at the same time wasn't
she was
comfortable with this
compelling
crying.
and credible.
Well, he bared his soul.
Right. And he looks like he's in, although Donna
No,
says...
Donna just referred to him as a justice, not a judge.
Oh, let's look back at that tape.
becomes justice.
All right, I'm going to tease in order to preserve the length of the next block. And
Thank
prevent
you.
the control room.
Shut up, Brian. Get to fan mail.
Shut up, Brian. That's nice talk. Let's get to fan mail
Don't
because
shut
you
him.
just stole
Don't
my
cry,
tease.
Brian.
Yeah.
Now I got nothing to say.
Question my temperament. Calming Gregorian chants
Yeah, what
there.
was that? Did you request it?
Yes.
Oh.
Better than Gregorian now.
Time to confess.
Yes, Fan Mail Friday. We're answering your questions. The first question from Joe T. A great question. What's your best scar story? And Dana, you grew up on a farm, so you must have scars.
No, actually, this is be a callback.
Uh-huh.
The scar that I have is from when I fell off the three-wheeler.
With Troy. So Troy was the boy you had a crush on.
No, that's not how it worked. I just happened to ride a three-wheeler, and then when he said to hold on, I didn't want him to think I liked him, so when I turned right, I fell off, and it rolled over, broke my ankle, and I have a scar on my toe.
Wow. Troy has left a mark on you. Brian, do you have a scar?
Yes. I had an exploding vein in my calf, and they took it out through my groin.
Wow, my God. Oh, let's just stop.
So I have 2 scars.
Donna, please.
My right tush.
This is not Fox and Friends.
It was Easter Sunday. My grandmother made my dress, and it had one of these long ribbons behind, and I was playing with baby Jack. We were sitting on the escalator, and I forgot to, tuck it under, and guess what?
Wow. Whoa.
That's for Jesse.
I've told this story before. Remember Black Friday, after drinking on Thanksgiving, I stood up from the toilet and smashed my head on the mirror from the medicine cabinet and then lied and told everybody I got into a fighting over a TV on Black Friday.
And now you confessed again.
Yeah.
My scar is I got hit with a lunch pail by Bobby Keller in 2nd grade.
Wow.
Was it 2nd grade or transitional? I can't remember what year it was. But he threw it on a fly and hit me in the head. So I got to give him credit for that.
Brett Kavanaugh?
Bobby Kennel, that's his name. If you're watching, Bobby, still haven't forgotten.
I remember baby Jack.
Yeah, you never forget your first scar. All right. J.D. Peterson asks, and this is good too, if you could write a book for another co-host, what would be the title of the book? And what would it be about? I would just go with the title of the book. But anyway, how about you, Brian, if you could write a book about somebody?
Well, thanks for the lead time. If I could write a book about someone.
A co-host. Anywhere in the FNC.
Wait, for him or her?
It would be, here's my book.
Yeah, ghostwrite.
Donna Brazile. Even nicer than you think.
Oh,
wow.
Greg, baby, don't cry.
Oh. Jesse?
I mean, doesn't everybody ghostwrite their books here at Fox?
No, you're looking at the wrong guy.
Oh, that's right. Something about the Pirates or a monologue. I don't know. Or a dog.
You're not even bothering to come up with the title.
What is
Dana?
that about?
I would write one for Jesse called The 10 Best Books I Ever Read.
Oh.
That's going to be a short book.
Yeah. I would say I have Born to be Wild, The Life and Times of Lou Dobbs. Yeah, because you guys don't know.
That sounds like a guy that got the questions ahead of time.
You know. All right. Ooh, this is a good question from Danny L. What do you miss the most about your hometowns where you grew up? That's assuming that we've moved away. Donna, what do you miss about your hometown?
Oh, I love New Orleans, and I miss a good gumbo. I could have a bowl tonight.
I miss the cheesesteaks in Philly.
Yeah.
Can't get them up here.
Yeah, you can.
Not good ones.
Yeah, just call an Uber. Dana?
Ranch air.
Ooh.
Yeah. Even the smell.
Is that some kind of euphemism? Smells like ranch air up here. That's the cow. Cow got inside again. The cow, they can't go downstairs. The cow.
No.
I don't know where that came from, Brian.
Sadly, I live in my hometown. So I don't miss anything. If I miss it, I walk down the block.
You never
A lack of personal growth. There's really nobody else that'll take me.
All right, what about the era? You grew up in the 40s? So sometime in your hometown?
I was in my prime in the 70s. That's when I was my youthful indiscretions. And the 80s, which will ultimately upend my career, as we found out recently. And now I'm in the zenith of my life. But in the same town. I think it's a wonderful story.
That's trouble.
I miss malls. I grew up in the 70s. Shopping malls were where you went. The Hillsdale Mall in San Mateo. Tanforan in, where's Tanforan? San Jose? Eastridge in San Jose. All the great malls. Spencer, oh, of course. That's where you got all the gag gifts. And then, like well, I won't get into the ice cubes.
I love
teas. Okay, one more thing.
Up next. Supposed to repeat what the producer said.
Calming Gregorian chants
there.
Yeah,
what was that? Did you request it?
Yes.
Oh.
Better than Gregorian now.
Time to confess.
Yes, Fan Mail Friday. We're answering your questions. The first question from Joe T. A great question. What's your best scar story? And Dana, you grew up on a farm, so you must have scars.
No, actually, this is a callback. The scar that I have is from when I fell off the three-wheeler.
With Troy. So Troy was the boy you had a crush on.
No, that's not how it worked. I just happened to ride a three-wheeler, and then when he said to hold on, I didn't want him to think I liked him, so when he turned right, I fell off, and it rolled over, broke my ankle, and I have a scar on my toe.
Wow. Troy has left a mark on you. Brian, do you have a scar?
Yes. I had an exploding vein in my calf, and they took it out through my groin.
Wow, my God. Oh, let's just stop.